So let's get right into the front pages. We have joining us Akintunde Babatunde, who's Executive Director, CJID, formerly the Premium Times Center for Investigative Journalism. Good morning, Akintunde. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning, Kade. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you. Let's walk through the front pages, Akintunde, and you can almost guess what the front pages have as the big stories. But let's start off with This Nigeria, and it's the way This Nigeria captures the story that is quite striking. And when you take a look at it, you see, and Buhari returns to the earth. That's how This Nigeria captures the big story, not just from yesterday, from Monday, from Sunday. Tears, long faces, gun salute, as ex-president remains interred in Dora. Tinubu, African leaders, governors, FEC, ex-governors,
I can't really hear you.
Business and political leaders witness event. So that's how This Nigeria leads. I hope you can hear me, Akintunde. You can see that image of President Buhari paying respects with a bow to the remains of former President Muhammadu Buhari. So that's President Tinubu paying respect. Of course, you see the mourners as well on that front page. But I understand that we can't see those images yet. So let's see how the Vanguard leads. Yeah, let's bring the Vanguard up now. Also the same thing. Tinubu, some African leaders bid farewell, bid Buhari farewell. But Akintunde, this is a man that's led Nigeria at various times for 10 years as a military head of state and as a democratic leader. You see, just under that big story, Galadima saying, I've forgiven Buhari for any infraction. So it sort of speaks to the complicated relationship that he's had with Nigeria and Nigerians. But all in all, Akintunde, as someone who's covered stories all the way back, what do you think this event will leave with Nigerians?
I'm sorry, Kade, what did you say?
I'm asking what you make of, his death, the burial, all of the messages that have been pouring in. What do you think this would leave with Nigerians, maybe largely in that sense?
I think we first have to pay respect to former President Buhari. What I think is interesting to see is that there's been like a convergence of a lot of the political leaders and Nigerians generally, also what leaders, paying respect to the former president. I think that it's not uncommon for someone who's ruled Nigeria for about 10 years in two different eras. I think that it is just normal for him to be respected. For anybody who's been Nigeria's president, whether for one day or for 2 days, it is just very normal that there will be this level of tribute, this level of honor. One other surprising, truth that happened yesterday, I think would also be when there were expectations that the remains would not be brought out the way that it was brought out. We were watching, hoping that it would be, cargoed from London. But it was in a more dignifying way where his remains were at the passenger area in the jet, and then it was brought out. I think that a lot of these are just important reflection that says when anybody has served the country, it is just very normal. It is just the needed thing to respect them. And that also then says that I think there's been a mixed reaction. If you've been, what I've been seeing, is that there's been mixed reaction from Nigerians who have one experience about the former president and Nigerians who have another experience about the former president. So you've seen mixed expression of some gratitude and also some disappointment. So which I think for anybody who's been, either spotlight for being a leader in Nigeria that's very diverse, a country of over 200 million people. I think that what we are seeing is very normal. I also think being the president of the giant of Africa, it's also very normal that a lot of world leaders would also share condolence message to offer their own goodwill and good thoughts for the president remains, and also to extend condolences to the family and to Nigeria as a country. So this is one barrier that I think would dominate the conversations for the longest time, because there were a lot of the honor that the Nigerian state accorded the former president. It came as a well thought out and a well planned event. So that's commendable. That's commendable. Anybody who will sacrifice their life to serve Nigeria, in the best way possible, deserves to be respected. And I think the state's honor was well done.
Okay, let's go to the Tribune, where literally every other paper is taking that path of remembering the former president. We may get back to that in just a moment, but the Tribune is leading with something quite different. Moving on to, well, it's the same thing anyway, but the big story. So you can see Sea of Heads as Buhari State Funeral in Daura features full military honors. Tinubu, Shatima, Atiku, African leaders, governors, military leaders, ministers, family, others pay last respect. I could see the front page literally capturing the son of the former president, current president, and then that procession and the mourners as well. But just above that and beneath the nameplate is the Patriots all-inclusive confab beginning today in Abuja. That meeting was supposed to start, the conference was supposed to start yesterday, but because of the burial of the former president, they had to shift it to today. They're looking at a new constitution and a potpourri of other issues. So delegates set to discuss future of constitutional democracy, plan to draft what they consider the people's constitution. What's your take?
I think that the current state of the country has been a disappointing mode for a lot of Nigerians. And there seems to be some people who think that our challenge is the Constitution. They think that the Constitution that we currently, the 1999 Constitution as amended, they think that it's not delivering for the people. But I personally sort of think that while that's needed, I think at every point, the constitution of any country needs to be reviewed. And but I also worry about the way that we are thinking about the challenges of the country and what we think could fix it. I suppose that the challenge that the Nigerian states have currently is more of the people who at one point or the other become custodians of the Constitution. So it's much more. You can have a very well thought out, well laid out, well documented, or well legislated, well drafted Constitution, and if you have people who don't respect the rule of law, if you have people who are very selfish, if you have people who don't believe that they owe allegiance to the people who bring them to power, if you have a country where there is almost no consequence for wrongdoing, then there is, no matter what level of constitution you have, then it's almost going to be business as usual. So my opinion is that the current disillusionment and the current disappointment that the Nigerian state is experiencing now is much more about elite capture, is much more about lack of respect for human rights, is much more lack of consequence at all levels. Is also much more about a convergence of political elites who are more interested in the power and dominating the Nigerian, Commonwealth at the detriment of the average Nigerian. So even if the confab happens, there was one, some 10 years ago, the political establishment did not allow that, say the light of the day. If this happens again, then it's also going to be business as usual. If, as a people, we don't have, a system that attach consequences for drilling on campaign promises. If we don't have a system that advances human rights, and we don't have a system of government that also believes that it is important to serve Nigeria with all sense of commitment to rule of law, to advancing security, and to ensuring that, we deal with education, health, and others. I think the challenge in Nigeria is more about leadership and quality people who would potentially make the country better. Whether we have a new constitution or not is much more about how much are the leaders ready to, to take heed into any of the provisions of the constitution. So we are not short of good laws. We are just short of good people to run the country.
Oof. That's quite punchy. But take a look at The Guardian, today. Again, leads with the burial of former President Muhammadu Buhari. Lots of images. I see President Tinubu hugging late President Buhari's son, and all those very touching images. But just draw your attention to the story right under those pictures in red. Senate declines Natasha's recall, insists no binding order. This has been on for months now. And after the court ruling, there was controversy about what the court said. But then the enrollment order, the certified true copy, came out. And the Senate is not saying there's even no binding order. The court doesn't say she must be reinstated. And therefore, they're declining Natasha's recall. Is this fair enough for you?
The fact that the initial question was about the constitution, a new constitution conference, and that you're asking the question whether or not the Senate would eat the court order is also a joke and also a paradox, because the fact that we are actually discussing that an elected lawmaker was suspended, for whatever reason, is already a disappointing development. That's already bad enough, because when people, the Constitution guarantees that federal constituencies and senatorial districts would have representatives. So no matter what level of rule you have at the National Assembly, and it's okay for people to be guided by rules. So it's okay for people to be guided by guidelines, So that's not the point. So if any member of the National Assembly has done wrong against the provisions of the rules of the House, it is okay for them to, to face the consequence. But such consequences should not in any way deny the people, effective representation at the National Assembly. So I think the culture where leaders of National Assembly would punish members of the National Assembly, and then suspend them from being active members for performing their legislative duties, I think it's something that we need to condemn in its totality, because it doesn't make any sense in any democratic jurisdiction. So I think the fact that the court has also then ordered that the suspended senator should be reinstated, and now we even have the National Assembly contesting the wordies of the law or whatever it is, also gives you a lot of things to think about and a lot of level of disappointment, because no people should be denied effective representation. And that's why I said it earlier, right, that we are not short of good laws. So what is happening now is the National Assembly, outrightly saying no to what the court has said. And that's not just the first example. We've seen a lot of such examples in the Nigerian system, over the years. So I think that totally no lawmaker should be suspended from performing their legislative duties.
All right,
I think that people who elect lawmakers should not be denied representation.
Indeed,
at
and
any
that's
level.
why there's a recall process
When lawmakers are wrong,
right,
then they can be made to face the law.
and that's why there's a recall process for those same people who elected the lawmaker. But looking at the enrollment order, actually, the 10th paragraph, number 10, which has been contentious, doesn't quite say she should be reinstated. It just says to suspend a member for a period of 6 months equals to a suspension for 180 days, and the same number of days a member is expected to sit. So the judge says, I find this excessive and overreaching, noting that it will prevent a member from complying with Section 63 of the 1999 Constitution. But there's no order, and that's a challenge. So there's meant to be an order if indeed, I mean, as the judge said, that now drives the point home. But if you look through, there is no order as you would expect. So that's where that contention really is. There's no word saying she should be reinstated. But the point has been taken, as you said, and I think that's what the judge was trying to say, but it still lacks that bite. Very good bark, but the bite is what we've not seen. Akintunde Babatunde, we have to thank you so much for your time, at least something to get us thinking as a people, as a nation, and as a government. We've been speaking with the Executive Director of the Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development, Akintunde Babatunde Osajadi Baju, by the way, formerly the Premium Times Center for Investigative Journalism. Thank you for your time. We wish you the very best.
Thank you for having me.